So Bonnie has graciously given us her time, Bonnie Herrera with Nova Home Loans. And I have said before that one of the reasons I love working with Bonnie is that she's the queen of the guidelines, right? And that has not been all that important in the past 10 years, but when we see a shifting lending environment, boy, does it become important. And I'm not sure that people understand why. Maybe you could illuminate on that topic.
Well, right now, we're all looking at just the low-hanging fruit, right? It's, you want to refinance? Sure. You have equity? Great. You know, and they meet the general guidelines. But once we enter into a market where the market's turned down, there's more guidelines to consider, and you need to find a loan that's going to work best for these borrowers and research those guidelines. I've been through 2 downturns. I've been in this industry for 25 years. So understanding what's needed and asking the correct questions up front to figure out all those pieces of the puzzle is what's really needed, so you're not getting to the end and all of a sudden you don't have a loan for this person because you did not ask the right questions at the beginning.
That's right. I think sometimes people fail to realize, or they just don't think it through, that you get everybody's information and then you paint a portrait. And that portrait you're painting is being given to an underwriter, and that underwriter is going to say, based upon that portrait, and then all the guidelines of not only Nova, but Fannie Mae or VA or FHA, that all of them have their own sets of guidelines. And if we don't paint that portrait properly at the beginning, it gets rejected.
Right. I mean, we need to know what obstacles we need to overcome, and if we can overcome them. We want to prepare a file as clean as possible and answer all the questions up front, so the underwriter is not digging for more information and all of a sudden there's these red flags all over the place. We're addressing the situation up front, and we're addressing it in an honest way. We're not trying to cover anything up, but we need to know what we need to overcome, or if we can overcome it.
That's right. That's right. Well, and I think that too, a lot of agents who've not worked through a shifting market aren't aware of contracting, changing guidelines. And then we saw the beginning of that. I was surprised at how quick we bounced back in March, but we can expect it again. What type of stuff can people expect?
Well, you know what, and the guidelines are changing every month. We're getting updated information. So in March, when everything shut down, the guidelines were, we need 2 months of a mortgage history after being reinstated in a forbearance. That's now changed to 3 months. Another part that's changed is if an individual is self-employed, we're looking at business bank statements and we need an updated profit and loss to show that their income is continuing. And again, it used to be 2 months, now it's 3 months. So it's constantly staying on top of those ever-changing guidelines to make sure we're meeting the requirements that are necessary.
Excellent, excellent. And I always say the difference between bummed out and freaked out is preparation. And if we know how to prepare and paint that correct picture the first time, it's just like a client. It's I love when you said it, we're not hiding anything. We're not, but when we present a situation that raises a lot of questions, it creates doubt in the mind of that underwriter, rather than creating, and then they start looking for stuff that otherwise they wouldn't even be scratching for. All of a sudden, 3 months of statements, no, we need to see another 2 months of statements. We need a stool sample. We need a DNA sample.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very few of us could withstand that type of scrutiny.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the guidelines as time goes on.
Yeah. One thing we know is that they change. You need somebody who is a student of the guidelines. That makes the difference between your transactions getting to the closing table or not, right? That really does. Well, and thank you again.
Any of us want to do is bring a borrower all the way, or a buyer all the way to the end, and have a turn down, you know, days before closing, versus telling them up front at the beginning, the answer is not yet. This is what we need to do to get you into the position to be a home buyer.
That's exactly right. And the same thing with sellers, right? The sellers, it's very unfair for them to wait all the way until a few days prior to closing, only to have the thing fall apart because some lender didn't understand the guidelines. So it's important. Yeah. Sure. All right. Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Oh, my pleasure.